Hey everyone, and welcome back to True Crime Pillow Talk with me, Kristen. If you're interested in true crime, go ahead and hit the like, comment, and subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell to be notified of next week's video. I do want to let you know that all videos require a trigger warning, as things can get graphic, and some photos like crime scene photos or mugshot photos will be posted, so please keep that in mind. And we'll go ahead and get on to today's case. Today we'll be talking about John Albert Gardner. John was born April 9th, 1979 in Culver City, California. When John was young, his parents divorced and he stayed with his mom, Kathy Osborne. And being that his parents divorced, Kathy and John constantly moved around South California. And in John's teenage years, they ended up in Running Springs, California, and that's where they lived. John's mother was a psychiatric nurse, and because of this, he was put on medication for psychiatric issues at the age of 6. And when he was 10 years old in 1989, he was put in a psychiatric hospital for 60 days. Teachers and classmates considered John as seriously emotionally disturbed in school, and he graduated from Rim of the World High School in Lake Arrowhead, California in 1997. He had a 3.2 GPA and an IQ of 113, and John was diagnosed with ADHD as well. John later admitted that when he was younger, his father would drink and abuse him, and this is what he says started everything that happened and led him to become who he became. During his high school years, he would work odd jobs, and one of the odd jobs that he worked was being a lifeguard at a local resort in Lake Arrowhead. He was convicted for trespassing in his teenage years, and once he graduated, he moved to San Diego and worked at a place called Big 5 Sporting Goods. In 2000, John was convicted of molesting his 13-year-old female neighbor, and he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. He completed his parole in 2008, and during his parole, he violated it 7 times. One of his violations was because he lived in close proximity to a school in 2007, and he was also investigated for possession of marijuana, but the incident was later dismissed. John was tracked by a GPS ankle monitor up until 4 months before the first murder occurred. GPS data shows that John spent a lot of time in close proximity to schools, daycares, and prison grounds where police suspected he was delivering contraband, and even in remote locations. And one of the remote locations on the GPS data was where one of his victims were found. Amber Dubois lived in Escondido, California, and Amber was the oldest of 2. And at 14 years old is when she disappeared. Her parents were divorced, but they were still close as friends, and they co-parented both of the children. She was considered a free spirit and different from others, and even considered an introvert. She attended Escondido High School, and on February 13th, 2009, she was walking to school, which was only about a mile from her home. And after school, she didn't come home, and her dad reached out to her via phone call and text message and didn't hear back from her. He then called the school to ask them if she showed up to school or if she left early, and the teachers informed her stepfather that she never showed up to school that day. They ended up filing a missing persons report, and the police started looking for her. They started checking data records for sexual offenders in the area to ask them questions when they couldn't find her after a few days. And then after a month of searching, the police called off the search. There were hundreds of people that came to try and find her, but nobody was able to. A bit over a year after Amber Dubois disappeared, a girl named Chelsea King from Poway, California, went on a 5-mile run in the Ranchero Bernardo Park after school. She normally would go on a 5-mile run because she liked running. And this time she decided she wanted to go to the Ranchero Bernardo Park. Well, after time passed and her father tried to contact her to see where she was and when she was coming home, he called her and texted her, and she was nowhere to be found. Amber was an only child. She was very popular and smart. She was a peer counselor. She played the flute, ran cross country, and she also played volleyball. She really loved the environment and was even going to school she wanted to go to college for environment studies as well. She applied to 11 colleges and got accepted into all 11, but she never made it. Chelsea's father and mother decided to go to Ranchero Bernardo Park to see if they could find her and figure out why she wasn't answering the phone. And this is when they found her car, her wallet, her phone in the parking lot. The police came out and a search began for Amber, and they were looking everywhere for her in this park. They didn't find Amber, but they did find blood, her underwear, socks, and away from all of those items, they eventually found both of her shoes. During the search for Chelsea, another jogger actually came forward to inform police of an encounter that she had with a white man in his 20s, stocky build and short brown hair in December of 2009. Once they were given this description of this man that she had an encounter with, they looked at surveillance of the park the day that Chelsea went missing, and they actually found someone. The person they found on footage that matched this description was John Albert Gardner. And according to the runner who had the incident with him in December of 2009, he tackled her and pinned her to the ground, and thankfully she knew jiu-jitsu, so she was able to break free by elbowing him in the face. He fell back. She was able to get up and run away. When they ran the data search for all the local sex offenders, John didn't pop up. Why? Well, John was actually registered to be living with his grandmother 50 miles away from Ranchero Bernardo Park. However, he was actually living with his mother and his stepfather on the grounds of Ranchero Bernardo Park. John's mother eventually came forward to inform police that the night that Chelsea went missing, John came back home and had a snake in his hand with no head. She also informed police that he had crazy eyes, wet clothes, and mud all over his clothes, and she even found scratches on him. When she asked him what happened and why he had a headless snake in his hand, he decided to let her know that he got the snake before the snake could get him. John's mother came forward and informed police of what happened that night. Police decided to do surveillance on him. They were surveilling him when he went into a bar with wet and muddy clothes on, and this is when they decided to arrest him and bring him in for questioning. They actually did a lineup with him and a few other men, and they brought the runner in from the incident in December of 2009, and instantly she pointed out John. John was actually then arrested and brought in for questioning on the Amber and Chelsea case. This is when he informed police that he was wrongfully convicted for the Chelsea murder, and he also stated to police, quote, "I bet you're going to try and pin Amber's disappearance on me as well," end quote. A psychiatrist did an evaluation on John in 2000, labeling him a danger to society. The psychiatrist stated, quote, "The defendant does not suffer from a psychotic disorder. He is simply a bad guy who is inordinately interested in young girls. However, his prediction toward younger girls is a problem. He manifests significant predatory traits and is a danger to the community," end quote. His sentencing in 2000, John actually had a lot of people come forward and inform the court that he was a nice guy. They never feared him as long as they've known him. They've never seen him or looked at him as someone to do these kinds of things. And Chelsea was actually later found in a lake. They obviously pinned John for the murder, and when he was in court, when the judge asked him how he pleads, he decided to say not guilty. But due to the charges that he was going to be faced with for pleading not guilty, he decided to come forward about both Chelsea and Amber's murder, and in order to help his sentencing, he brought police to Amber Dubois' body. He also informed police that the murder of Amber happened within an hour and a half of him abducting her while she was on her way to school, and he brought police to an Indian reservation 20 miles away from where she went missing, and that's where her body was. He actually stated in an interview, "I actually didn't go out and look for them. What I did was horrible. I mean, I was aware of what I was doing, and I could not stop myself. I was in a major pit of rage and pissed off at myself, at my whole life, and everyone who's hurt me. And I blew up, and I hurt the wrong people. I hate myself. I really do. There's no taking back what I did, and if I could, yes, I would. It wasn't about their age." End quote. When asked if there were other victims in the interview that he had, he laughed and informed them, "Good try. Good try." End quote. The lady who was attacked in December actually did a victim impact statement, and one thing that she stated was, quote, "To make us a little bit safer by locking him up permanently and finally freeing us from the nightmare that he has created. And finally, to ask how his nose is." End quote. After she stated this, John turned into a whole new person. He was so angry. He was like mad, looking at his lawyer and telling his lawyer that she was a liar, that she just said that for publicity, and she did not hit him. He wanted to make sure that it was very clear to his lawyer and the people who were there for him that she did not have the chance to hit him. He was very angry to hear that she said that, but she looked right at him. Both of the victims' mothers were there, and one of them I saw do a victim impact statement as well, and she looked right at John and asked John to look at her, and he wouldn't. He kept his head down and made sure that nobody had eye contact with him, and she gave him a few minutes to look up, and whenever he didn't, she stated, "I knew you couldn't." She knew all along that he was a monster, and as any mother would, all you need from someone whenever something like this happens, I feel, is closure, and he couldn't give that to her. Amber's dad also stood up in court and made a victim impact statement as well, and I'll leave the link down below so that you all can watch that court hearing for yourself. There was one more interview that he did, and he laughed and stated in the interview, "If I got the death penalty, I would be sitting in a single cell for 25 to 30 years before they ever decide to give me the death penalty. Now, with the sentence I have, I'm going to be dead in the next 5 years. When asked why, he stated, "Haha, you don't know how prison works, do you?" John is actually still alive, and he's fat, and he is currently in California's Mule Creek State Prison. That is all that I have for today, guys. I will see you next week on Wednesday. Thank you so much for your continued support. I really do appreciate it. I love you all. Bye.